One of the most powerful and important things that I've learned is that health is determined by our lifestyle. Giving you guys a little background about myself, more than 10 years ago, I was living with gastrointestinal infections to the point everything I ate would just get me completely sick for months. 4 years ago, I was living with chronic pain, and every single step I took felt like my body was going to crumble. I went through medical interventions, tests, pills, vaccines, treatments. Nothing really helped me heal. Healing began when I started to work with different professionals who guided me to understand that healing would happen when I would change many factors in my lifestyle. A holistic view of what health really is. Today, this topic also comes because of the situation we're living. I cannot agree with many of the ways a lot of the medical institutions or world powers are trying to find a solution with the situation we're living today. Hiding, locking up, and not learning to adapt and face a situation that will only work if you learn to live with it. I didn't run away from my problems. When I try to run away from it, when I try to hide, suppress, I was always living in pain. It doesn't work that way. I had to learn to adapt, and adaptation is a strength. Today, we go all the way to San Diego, California to talk to Dr. Tommy John, our special guest, somebody who has 20 plus years working with healing and performance. The topic is his ideas, 8 essentials for a healthier lifestyle, 8 essentials that I also agree with, and 8 essentials that keep me together when I face a setback or I face any difficult situation in my life. With that being said, welcome to The Cheapest Medicine, and let's give life to a very controversial topic in this very 3rd episode of this podcast. Hello, Dr. Tommy John. Welcome to The Cheapest Medicine. It is a pleasure to have you here on this podcast and be able to speak about a very interesting yet controversial topic, 8 essentials for health.
Of course. I appreciate the honor, man.
Awesome. Thank you. Again, it's a pleasure to have you here. And before we start and we get down into the topic of today's podcast, if it's okay with you, if you could give us a little bit about your background, who Dr. Tommy John is, what's your experience with health and everything, especially with in relation what we're going to speak today.
Sure. So I was a high school multi-sport athlete and then ended up specializing my senior year, played college baseball, got a scholarship to Furman University. And so while playing baseball at the Division I level, and competing at that level, I also earned a bachelor's and master's in health and exercise science. I went on to play 2 years of professional baseball. I pitched for 2 years. And then I ended up getting with a company for who I worked for about 10, 11 years. It was called Synergy Fitness and Sports. And we did rehab, we did personal training, we did nutritional consults. I was doing baseball lessons. I did over 11,000 private baseball lessons in over that span of time. And we covered anybody from MS to Parkinson's to developmental disorders to diabetes to the professional athlete to Chicago Bears to scholarship, you name it. We experienced the riddles that were injuries or basically just people trying to perform at their best regardless of what it was. It wasn't geared around sports. It was just life really is who we had in the office, and it was great. And then I started to see some trends in my baseball lessons. I was seeing some injuries come into my cages in 10, 11, 12-year-olds, characteristics of injuries that we should normally see in 50, 60, 70-year-olds. And this was back in 2009. So something wasn't right with the youth sports paradigm and with injuries in general as it was. So I just realized that I was part of the problem, making a fortune in baseball lessons in the wintertime. And I had an attack of conscience. And I shut down my baseball school and I went back at 32 years old to get a chiropractic degree to go upstream and affect the whole system even more, but to have all the skill sets in my hands so we didn't have to rely on any other practitioners. And so I went to Life University, got a chiropractic doctorate, and then that's where I am now. I'm practicing in San Diego, California. I have a performance and healing center where everybody gets their spine checked.
Nice.
Interference is removed, and then if somebody's a movement candidate, or they've got some training, or we've got emotional stuff, or we have meditation, or we've got sunshine, we got fresh air, there's all these different avenues with nourishment and everything else, that basically it's literally just trying to help empower people to get into positions to perform life at their best and to enjoy this life as much as possible, and to give literally the power back to them, the autonomy back to them, that's kind of being robbed, where we need to be saved. We're a kind of need to be saved type community now, and we need to change that.
Awesome. Pretty big bio you gave us there. And it's something that I mean, I'm much younger than you, but I also work in the injury recovery realm. Not so much when you talk about diabetes and all, more into these types
Yeah.
of pathologies that people can have. But my experience have been working more with professional soccer and then the academies here in Europe. And also I can talk about my case dealing with chronic pain and injuries. And as you said, something made you change. Something made you realize I have to change the way I'm practicing my career, my professional, the way I'm approaching things needs to be different. And that's something that also hit me when I was recovering and then recovering other athletes. A lot of the stuff that I think is being taught isn't taught well, or a big part of the puzzle is missing. And I know we've been working a little bit more into the injury recovery, and you're more into what you have worked in healing. And today we're living a situation that's very confusing. We're living in a world where, yes, we're dealing with a virus, a new one that came out practically last year. And we're in this state of pandemic. That's what they call it. And
Right.
it's not that I'm against medicine. I'm not against this factor. I think medicine is neutral. It's the way you use medicine that I'm very against, the way things are being handled. It's like we're ignoring that the human body has an immune system and that the human body is very smart. You can actually teach the body to heal, and that we actually have the power to heal a lot of the pain that we have. And if we talk about something that's attacking our body, like a pathogen, our body has the capability to also attack that. So you do mention 8 essentials, and I want to start with the first one. You say believe in something greater than yourself. What would you say? Why is that the most important one? Because I see that's number one.
Yeah, so I want to just real quickly give where these came from, so then we have context as to who can apply these. Do you know what I mean? Like who, because you and I might be typecasted as just sports guys, or you know what I mean. But and that I get a lot of that now, and I want to preface this because I get a lot of stay in your lane about the immune system. You don't know what you're talking about, viruses, stick to tendons and ligaments. And what if you're working with any human of any capacity, you better know all systems and be able to integrate everything into everything, because healing a tendon is an immune function.
Yes.
Recovering from a overtime game the night before is an immune system issue. So we damn well better be talking about immune across the board, whether it's a virus or whether you just got rolled up on and somebody got a red card, right? It makes no difference. You're adapting to that scenario. The body doesn't know what it is. It just goes ahead and does what it does to adapt. So where those 8 came from, it's in my research and readings and conversations with people over 90, other practitioners doing much more tedious, greater work on a greater scale with really severe cases where we have these remissions. Every disease has been naturally cured. Every single one of them. At least one time. Somebody has done it, which means the blueprint is inside us all. And so when you pull back the curtain on all this and you look at the traits and the trends, what did they all do? And after having so many conversations, reading so much and looking up to other people, it came down to these 8. I was really trying to test these 8 as much as possible. And I'm like, you know what? There's always going to be some imbalance or red flag within these 8 that create our expression of health, because 100% of our health is in our hands now with epigenetics and the new biology and everything else. Like we have full capacity to determine what happens. We're not at the mercy of our genes. We're not at the mercy of we aren't a label. And so that's where these came from. So in regards to these, if we want to look at them not so much as a list, like a top to bottom list, even though that's sometimes how we write them, right? And I do too, because there are some that are more important per se, but they're all written in like a circle, like a clock face. And if you look at a clock face, they're all, if we drew a line from 12 to 6 to 2 to 8 to 7 to, they all connect. And you draw all these lines and connect them all. So all these 8 are all interspersed together with certain ones taking priority, but they're all interwoven. That's a big thing I need people to understand, because we have a big check the box mentality in society today. Everyone comes in and they're like, I did everything you said. Why am I not great? Or I did everything you said. Why am I not healed? Well, you just checked the box. You didn't link it all together. You know what I mean? And they're trying to like find the formula, right? What's the formula that makes Tom Brady great? What's the formula that makes people live over 100? It's not, man. It's this interwoven dynamic piece of putty that you have to make your own. So that's where that came from. That's just to hold that in a picture in your head as we discuss these 8. So a belief in something greater than yourself. I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual. Okay. And so it just didn't make sense to me how I was raised, but I look at all these other ones and I'm like, gosh, man, they're so fascinating, and they all kind of come from the same place. But basically, we have to admit first, if we're looking to turn something around or to heal ourselves or to improve our performance or whatever the goal is, we have to acknowledge that there's this force and this power inside of us that is like when you cut your leg and it heals and you didn't even know about it, that force is greater than you. There's trillions of cells with hundreds of thousands of processes going on inside each cell every second of every day. You can't control that. There's no human on the planet who could have that job. So we have to acknowledge that there is this force that connects us to all living things, to nature, to the sun, to the elements, to the ocean. And once we admit that, that almost activates what's inside you, because you acknowledge that it's there. And that's ultimately the force. That's ultimately the relationship that's going to end up being the driver in this whole thing, working with you, but the you is, this is inside of you, so your first thing, you have to admit there is a force inside you. There is this power inside you that's greater than you, and it has your best interest in mind. And its only job, is to adapt, keep your body to it, willing to adapt and survive its environment. Done. That's what it does.
Awesome. I like the word acknowledgement. Acknowledge that there's something greater than us out there. I mean, I am a religious Catholic guy. However, I'm not one of those guys who's closed-minded. I think there's more than that, but I'm not getting into that kind of stuff. More into the whole aspect of nature, which, as someone who lives, who understands nature, who respects it, and tries to see what's out there, I can totally agree with that. When I see how I've been able to help athletes or other people who have had really messed up injuries recover, and how I'm just a guide. I don't really do much. I just guide, and I hope that everything works, and that what I'm doing, the body's going to be able to adapt, which is the other word I want to talk about. A lot of times people don't understand that living is adapting every single day, adapting to a new stress, adapting to something new. And life is stressful. It's going to be there. How do you think somebody got stronger? How do you think somebody learned something? How did somebody became what they are? Because of stress. Stress doesn't have to be negative. The problem is living in stress daily. And that's the one thing that you started touching. I wanted to add, on adaptation, but talking about something greater than us is humbling. I think something that I also want to add to that is, and also in my experience, when you realize that sometimes you don't have to be in control, you just have to work with it. You have to learn to live in harmony with it. Things are better. And whether you call it religion, whether you call it spirituality or whatever, I agree with that aspect of having the idea or knowing the acknowledgement that there's something greater than us, which takes me to the next one that I think is just as good, the purpose.
Yeah.
What can you say about that?
Yeah. So I always I try to have people when they first come into my office or when they first encounter me, why are you doing this? Like, what brings you in? And their reason has to be emotion. It has to be attached to an emotion, because if we're going to change anything in their body, it has to be on an emotional level. They have to connect with it with feeling, and the feeling will then change the cells of the body, and it will change that check the box. They'll connect with what's going on, more driven around their reason as to why they're doing it. And a lot of people have no reason. Their reason isn't concrete. And what happens is when they have a first challenge or adversity or it gets uncomfortable, they don't have their reason in it's not really concrete, or it's not pictured, and it's very easy to slide off or to just not go through the steps and do the work. And it's not that we have to have this grand plan. I think that's where everyone tries to. I did a podcast with a girl, soccer coach, Erica Suter. It was everyone asked that, what's your 5-year plan?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, come on, man. But that's our society, right? Like, oh, you go to college and you graduate, you get a degree, and you pay off your student debt, and then you get married, you have a kid, you're going to have a mortgage. And wait, really? I don't know. I don't have any idea. Maybe just be better than I was the day before.
Yeah.
Do something good for this world. Have some. My purpose has to be bigger than myself, because it's all geared around that spirit inside me, right? That belief of something greater than me. So it all ties through that. But sometimes we have these like little small lily pad purposes, like where we just kind of hop from lily pad to lily pad, or we have these medium purposes. Like what? For some people, they haven't gotten out of bed in like 3 years at before 9:30 or something, something small like that. Okay. Did you get out of bed? Your purpose tomorrow is to get out of bed at 9:20. And they do it. Success. Boom. And celebrate the small victories. You did it. Hell yeah. And for some people, that's enough, because they've gone through, we don't even know what they've gone through, right? Like they don't know what's imprinted on themselves. So it doesn't have to be this magnanimous leap of a building, but it's just these little steps. But you always have to have a reason as to why you do stuff. And if somebody asks me at any time why I'm doing something, I will have a list in my head. Oh, because of, why are you walking by the beach? Oh, boom, here you go. Why do you go stand right there? Why are you petting that cat? Why'd you make that meal? Why'd you go? And I have all these reasons. Nothing is because I was told to. I don't know. Like I'm just going because I'm supposed to. That whole supposed to and told to. I don't know. And that's another thing, that people can't do it. Just like you said, you're a facilitator, a suggester, you're an empowerer. Like we're not like healers. We're just little tutors, like assists. Yeah. I'm on the side and behind you, but you can't be doing it for me. And that's why I keep telling people, they're like, oh, I got out of bed and I did it for you. Nope. And I'll let them celebrate that. That's fine. But it has to be for that spirit inside, the reason you're doing it, and for you as to what are you ultimately doing this for? And the more detailed you can get, the better. But again, you have to tie it into an emotion. For instance, somebody comes in, hey, I would like to, fix let's just make it easy, my knee, make it real simple. Yeah. Although with simplicity comes complexity, let the body take care of that. So they come in, it's like, oh, okay, how does your knee injured, how is your knee functioning like this affecting your life? Well, it's annoying. I can't do the things I like to do. Oh, like what? Crawl on the ground with my grandchild. And what are you feeling when you miss that? Like, what are you missing out on? Well, no, my wife, we can't go to my daughter's, they keep going. And it's like, okay, what else? Well, I feel upset, and it depresses me that I can't. Okay, that's what you got to hold on to, because you're feeling something that's something that you're supposed to experience. Your body's feeling this. It's trying to tell you to do the steps necessary to change your reality so that feeling then gets turned into a positive, because all feelings are just lessons, like messages, right? And so then they're like, okay, now we got to go through these 8 essentials for that knee, and they're ready to go. They just take it down. And then all of a sudden in 3, 6, 9 months, 3 years, however long the body determines, all of a sudden now they're on the ground moving around, and they're just ecstatic and happy and proud and content and connected again. And then you just shaved, interpreted years off a person's life at 60 or 70 years old, all because of just a knee. It's not just a knee. Like it's not, it's the whole thing. It's not just like, what's the exercise to heal my knee? So that's where that intention, that why, because your intention is everything behind everything.
So you mentioned a couple of things here. Small
Mm-hmm.
victories, very important.
Mm.
This is something that I always try to educate people, whether when they message me, I got a problem with the hip, problem with the knee, or
Yeah.
simply I want to get better. I want to be a soccer player. I want to be a professional. I'm from so and so, a little town in my country, Costa Rica. They message me, what can I do to get there? And I'm always like, how big is your purpose? How bad do you want this? But
Right.
first of all, what do you celebrate? I mean, because they want to go from point A to point B like this. They want to go
Yes.
really quick, and I'm always like, there's no quick fix to anything. I'm gonna be real with everybody. Even
Right.
with the situation we're living today, because everybody thinks with a vaccine or a pharmaceutical we're good to
Right.
go. It doesn't work like that in the world, and I can tell you from personal experience, when you have medical shit going on,
Right.
man, it doesn't go on one day. I'm sorry, my bad if you get pissed at me, but it doesn't work that way. That's not how the world works. So the purpose is huge. Small victories are going to help you keep going. But the one thing that I wanted to ask you is, we're living in a world where people are so stressed out. And I've heard
Mm-hmm.
people who just are so depressed. And that's why I like you mentioned the word emotion. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
some people are losing their way to go. Like their purpose is not that strong, or it's getting challenged. What would you do to fix it? And I think that's going to hit us with the next one. And that's why I don't like the whole social distancing thing. Doesn't make sense to me,
Yes.
the way it's being dealt with in its connections, and obviously that deals with relationships.
Yeah. So one, the spectrum of feelings are important to understand that in order to heal, you have to feel. Um, Depression and anxiety, things like that, have been given a very bad stigma as something's wrong with you if you're experiencing depression or you have anxiety or jealousy or manias, or that's the human emotional spectrum, man. That we're supposed to feel that. Now,
Mm-hmm.
we're supposed to repeatedly feel that and not do anything about it, or quiet it, or numb it, or drug it, or feel it something, or feel guilt and shame because of it. No. Like, why? What are you supposed to go with? And I love this. Like, my brother passed away in 2010, and Charles Tillman was a football player for the Bears. And he pulled me aside at the funeral, and I handle things pretty well, but this is my best friend. And he goes, "Hey, man, uh, make sure you feel this." He's like, "Stay with us." I was like, all right, cool. Like, and I understood what he was saying, because a lot of people would, in that climax, in that climate, would go to try to shut it down, not feel. Because yeah, was it hurtful? Of course it was. It's the worst thing in my life, but it also spawned, because I evolved from it. I turned my life around into this great thing that was also the best moment of my life. So when we've got something going on like depression, or you're feeling, sit with it. Don't be afraid to sit with it. It's okay. Also understand you're not alone. Like, every single person around you has either dealing with this feeling, knows somebody who's dealing with this feeling, and we're all connected in this. Like, mental health is an everybody issue. It's 100% of everybody. That's where those emotions come in. The feelings create the emotions, the thoughts, and then it changes yourself. So again, if we can connect with people and talk about it. My greatest therapy, I don't do therapy per se. I don't go to a holistic psychiatrist and sit and get therapy. But you want to know what my therapy is? I talk to all my clients. I talk to cats. I'm not shit. I talk to my neighbors. I talk to, like, I'm just sharing. And everyone's like, "Oh, how you doing?" And it's not always like, "Very good. How are you?" No, when somebody's like, "Hey, how you doing?" Ah, flip, man. I had a nightmare last night. Oh shoot, what's that? Well, talk about it. Oh Jesus, I don't know. It was like one of my clients, and I took his blueberry popsicle, and then my mom was there, and then you know what I mean. And it's all
Yeah.
this stuff. It's like, oh wow, I talk and share so much with so many people that you start to realize you're not alone at all. It also helps the others to realize they're not alone. So as far as what you're feeling right now, you are not alone at all. And that's why I'm so against the social distancing. One, it's not any way to get rid of a virus. Not at all. Not ever, not at all, not even a weak
Mm-hmm.
one like the one we're going through now. Social connection is the greatest healing aspect we've got, because it connects that spirit within us. It's like the biggest organism on the planet is this grove of aspen trees, right? They're all connected by one single root. I'd argue that it's human race, man. And like, it's billions of us all strung together by this one tethered, you know, entity into the ether that is our energy or our soul. I mean, we're all connected. Everybody can feel everything on you know this. And when you start doing the work, you really sense when someone's not vibing at your level, or when you're down and somebody else comes in and opposes that. You can feel it. And so that's, I think, with just emotions, especially with what's going on now, drop the social distancing. And if you are doing it, connect in some way, whether it's Zoom, phone, written. I don't care how you do it, but you cannot. I hate how you said it. I hate how it's called social distancing and not like physical distancing, right?
True.
But like that's where the play on. I'm like, oh my God, this is like one of the worst decisions ever, is to distance socially. No. Physical barriers, fine. You do whatever you want, but socially, absolutely not. We are social creatures and we have to connect. And we're not alone. Ever, ever, ever are we alone.
First, sorry to hear about your friend. That is a tough one to hear, man. I'm sorry for that. And then you mentioned some really good points. Feeling the depression, feeling that pain. It's something that I was taught, but probably one of the best coaches ever to help me guide myself out of so much chronic pain. He was like, first of all, I want you to feel it. I want you to accept the pain. I want you to live the pain. I want you to cry. I want you to be angry. I want you to don't suppress it. One of the worst things I think I've ever done is to take pills to just say, oh, I'm done with this. I don't want to live with it. And then it's like, no, you have to live it. And then from there on, you're going to work to get rid of it, which is not quick. It takes time, and connections is huge. Working with the athletes this last 2 years here at the team in Spain, I've used to have people who had like an ACL tear. We know that for an athlete is horrible. They're having a hard time, and sometimes it even happens where they're at their highest peak in their performance. And sometimes some of the sessions with them, we're simply talking. How are you? How's it going? How's your day?
Right.
We're not going to train today because I didn't see any good in working out, and the person's just dealing with emotion and he not accepting the situation. It's having a hard time. Sometimes it's 30 minutes, an hour session. It was just, you know what? We're going to do 30 minutes of just us talking, and the next 30 we're going to move. But first, let's let this out. Let's talk. And it's huge with connections and with the situation doing today, because I do the same thing as you said. If you spoke to my friends, if you spoke to my parents, or you spoke to my brothers or anybody, they're probably going to be like, yeah, Roberto doesn't shut up. He will let it out. He is going to scream. He's going to curse. He's going to go crazy. Because I've learned that it's worse if you bottle things up. And it's part of the social thing that I'd never understood today. Because, when I've heard that, I see people who get sick, and it's like, okay, you got to stay by yourself. You can't talk to anybody. You can't see anybody. You can't do shit. And I'm just like, whoa, one second. I know I've never lived to a point of life or death or a situation where, I can't breathe, but I've lived in moments where I can't walk. I know what it is to not be able to walk 5 meters without feeling like you're going to crumble. And the last thing I would do is to stay away from people. I would actually call people for help. I would call people to be, hey, I need to talk to you. I need some help. I don't know. Can you help me walk? Can you help me guide myself towards this place? I don't know if I can do it. I'm having trouble. And when I see people who are sick, and this is not just COVID, I see it with other stuff around the world. People who are sick and you leave them alone, what do you think is going to happen with the level of stress? It's going to go up. And the one thing I mentioned at the beginning, and we've been talking about this stuff, is it's not that stress is bad. It's living in that level of stress on a daily basis, every single day. And one thing that I do as a coach, I always like explaining the injury line. There's this line over here at top, which you want to be at the top where everything's good, or what we call anabolic. Everybody's happy here. Then when we train, obviously we hit the catabolism at the bottom. It's not that that's bad. It's staying in that area that's bad. And when we talk about chronic pain, it's not just physical, as you mentioned. There's emotional. And not to make this long, this makes me go to the other one, which I think it's self-explanatory. But as common and as self-explanatory as it is, how much do people sleep or nap? How much do people take importance to this?
It gets the backseat. It's so we're so starved for sleep that it's now become one of the premier things that I'll say, because people sometimes want sound bites for interviews or whatever,
Mhm.
regarding injury or performance or health, and I'm like, we need sleep, like more sleep, and they're just like, what? It does that, and that whole like, if you're not grinding, if you're not an
Yeah.
alpha entrepreneur, and you're not sleeping, like avoiding sleep, you'll sleep when you're dead. That whole mindset, like,
Yeah.
wait, what are you talking about, man? But that's when you measure success by how many businesses you own and how many millions you're making, right? What you're driving, instead of, are you living? Like, are you
Mhm.
really enjoying this whole thing? No. And then the advent of having computers access all the time through phones and everything else. The light from the phones disrupts it. If hormones kind of determine when we get tired, when we wake up, what disrupts hormones? Well, stress, like you said, a lack of purpose, a belief, our relationships, connecting with people, like sunshine, nourishment, movement. So it's all those kind of tailor in together, and sleep is when we plug our own phone in,
Mhm.
right? Like, if that's when things get filed into drawers. That's when we dream and get blueprints and instructions for the next path, or when we get answers. There's so much that goes down with sleep. And somebody did it. It was like, whatever the number of hours for the average lifespan, how much is slept, like sleep,
Mhm.
it's pretty important. Like, when you look at that, that's why I do the same thing. And people are like, why do you walk everywhere? And I'm like, well, it took us like a year and a half to learn how, and we taught ourselves, and our everything we did every day was geared around moving to our ability to walk. It was literally one of the most important things we knew as humans. So because of that, I respect it. And when you look at it like, oh, we're supposed to shut down at night. Studies show, or if you didn't even go
Mhm.
studies and you just went on feel, you probably do it when the sun sets, and you probably do it when the sun wakes, like, lights up. Like, it's like, the sun is your light switch. Like, if
Mhm.
we just go on that, my God, it's just one of those things that, before I'll give people what's the recovery training plan, right? And what's the dynamic recovery, or what other things can I do to uh, go to sleep, and then I love naps too, because there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, I tried meditating and I fell asleep. Great, go. Your body just like did it. I mean, it's leading. So take a nap. Don't even naps weak, or naps intrusive, or naps a nuisance. No, you could take a 7 to 19 minute nap
Mhm.
4 or 5 times a day. Just find a little place, or you know, peace and quiet if you're outside or whatever. I've pulled up a car. I love getting to places early, because there's a really good chance I'm probably going to nap.
Mhm.
If I'm picking you up from the airport, I'll be 45 minutes early. It's just me, and I'll either move, train, meditate, read some sort of improvement. And a lot of the times it'll be put the seat back, bam, 12-minute nap, done. But it's one of those missing links that we are scrambling for more to add. And sleep would be one of the biggest performance healing hurdles that we all have access to. It's free.
I completely agree. Yes, exactly. Sleeping is very overlooked. People sometimes don't realize the importance of just simply sleeping, how much benefits you're going to get from it. Um, I can say in my experience, when I had my situation with chronic pain, I couldn't sleep. I wasn't actually resting well, and that was completely inhibiting in my recovery. It was making it tougher. It was making it much more complicated. I was having a shitty time. And I remember speaking to one of the first coaches that got me into, the whole recovery area and, moving forward. He would ask me, how much are you sleeping? How are your rest moments? Are you actually resting, or are you just closing your eyes and you're just trying so hard that when you wake up, it's like you just slept because you had to, but it wasn't really good. It was just bad. And it's that moment that I started realizing how much sleep was going to help me. I had to be ready for the next day to be able to do something. I had to let my body recover energy, replenish, take that moment of just peace so tomorrow I can get back into, do what I have to do to get myself better. And it's something that I see it as a coach. I ask a lot of people, I'm like, when I have my athletes or I have someone who's having a situation, I'm like, how much are you sleeping? And you're going to realize a lot of people will say, not really well. I'm not doing much sleep, or if I'm sleeping, it's not a good one. I don't rest well. I feel completely like crap the next day. I feel like I haven't slept in days. And all that you're going to do is affect your body. And as we know, if you don't sleep, what's going to get affected? Everything else. And we can put the immune system in that position as well. And it's incredible still today to see how much sleep is completely overlooked. And one of the things that this is going to take me to the next topic, which is breathing, meditation, and prayer, is reaching that level of peace to be able to sleep. One of the things I realize is when we're so stressed out, and then we stress out about sleeping, we're not going to be able to rest. To be able to rest, we need to calm down. And meditation, whether you call it prayer or breathing or whatever you do, is huge. This is one of the first things my coach taught me to do. When I was having a lot of pain, I was just in complete alert, fight or flight mode, and it was just pain all over the place. I was completely scared. He was like, we need to learn to relax. So we started with breathing exercises. We started teaching myself how to use this as a weapon for my own good. Because, sometimes I have my bad days. There's days where, I'm a little irritated because of whatever reason, and sometimes I just take a moment to take a break, breathe, or do a little prayer, have a moment where I can just relax, control my thoughts, and then, let my body calm down. It's so, so important. So I know this is, like I said, this is the next topic or the next section that you're going to talk about. What can you say about breathing, how important this is, or whether it's meditation or prayer? What is your thoughts on this?
I love it. I know I'm on the right track because anytime somebody's going to contend against my philosophy in life, and there are always these haters, right? Trolls and everything else. The first thing they always attack is meditation. They always are like, oh yeah, meditation is going to beat a virus. Good luck with that one. I'm like, It's interesting. They always go at that one first. They always attack that first. Okay. Might be onto something. But I love it because it's one of those times where we connect with that power greater than ourselves. It's where we literally quiet down so much and are present, and it's not easy. And some people are always like, I don't do it well, therefore I don't do it. I'm like, do we do anything well? I mean, we're never done like getting better at something. Some people are like, oh, you should try this new stretching thing or this. No, the lunge is still pretty tough for me. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I need a lot of new. These things still kill me. This is crazy. And it's different every time. And they're just like, oh, good point. That's actually pretty interesting. I'm like, yeah, are we done with these simples? No way. So, one, there is no doing it right or wrong. Just do it. Just do it and experience it. But I love the focusing on breath. It does connect you with whatever you believe is your higher, whatever the higher inside you is. It silences you. A lot of times I've had questions or I felt lost, like we all do, right? Not at just these major crossroads, but even sometimes daily. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? Why am I with her? Or why am I with him? Or why am I doing this for a living? Go to meditation or breath or prayer. Center in, connect with self, connect with that higher, either do a guided, that's how I started because I didn't know what I was doing. I'm like, all right, YouTube, Insight Timer, Headspace. Like, there's all these little things. Sure, but do a guided. Just all they're doing is just like you and I are doing, is just getting you in a position to take over, take the reins. And when you do, and you submerge yourself into it, instructions, like answers come. And that's what I love about it. It's like I've reached out before I moved to California. I didn't know where I was going to go. And I was reaching out to some people that I respect who have been in practice, for 30 years. I'm like, guys, should I move to California? Should I go to Vancouver? Should I go to Europe? Should I go? And every single one of them was just like, either they would always return back with pray or meditate. They're like, go, pray. Like, they give me some shit like, meditate, dude. Or fucking meditate. They do something like that. And I'm like, wow, what does that even mean? Okay. But they never gave me advice because that's not something that they could give me this. Well, you want to weigh out geographically. What demographic are you going to make the most money on? Like, no, what? Just go meditate. And I did. And it was a mantra. Just where should I practice? Show me where to practice. And then all of a sudden, there's this huge sign that was in San Diego and this whole trippy experience and all these things. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so anytime there's a question or there's some sort of a dilemma or a problem, and we all have them, doesn't matter the level, your body has already lived it out. It's already played out the scenario. It already knows what it needs for your best survival. It could be anything. It could be any industry, anything you're looking at, any inventory you're going to take. When you go get quiet and do this, the answers come. But I will say, like, you doing all this together with the other 7, get you ready to receive what that answer is. Because I'll say this to people, like, sometimes you're not going to be like you're not ready to heal because you're not prepared to handle what's going to happen if you do. Like, if you want to make money, know how to use it or like manage it or, or wealth. Or if you want the right partner, well, are you ready to receive the right partner? Because it's not coming. It won't go till you're ready to go, till you're ready, prepared to handle it. If not, it's going to be like winning the lottery, right? 70+% of people who win the lottery are just given money or bankrupt in 3 years because they never went through the whole process of like learning how to whatever they're going to do with that money or manage it or do some good things with it. But that's what I love about my aunt prays because she's like, this meditation, she prays, and that's her form. She does it every morning. She connects with God, and she gets answers. And I know it's one of those things. It's like, really, the answers come. Like, the answer may come in the form of a boat, with a name on it, or the answer may come in the form of a stranger walking in through your door. What? Like, every single thing has reason, has purpose, is part of the whole plan. And that meditation, I love. It syncs up everything together of the 8 essentials. It links them all together, which I love the most.
Probably one of my favorite responses I've heard from the people who have got onto the podcast. Wow, that was a big one because it's big. I mean, my mom says the same thing. She's a big Christian mom. She prays a lot. I think this is the person that prays the most, and she always tells me that you need a question, you need an answer, you're confused, go breathe, go pray, go do something, but just take your time. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to tell you where to go. I'm in a situation right now where I have 2 options. Which one should I take? Should I go back home? Should I go stay in Europe? And I've asked people, close people, and your answer right now was like literally what everybody has been telling me, and it's been like, you need an answer, go do that. And it's huge because it's at those moments. The same thing happened with this podcast. The same thing happened with all the projects that I'm doing today, which I decided, which were all plans in my mind, but I decided to give it a go. When I would sit down and say, okay, let's breathe, let's close my mind, and let's look for answers. And all of a sudden, I would start realizing maybe I could do this, I could do that, I should do this. And then, as you said, connecting with the other ones, you will find that you're looking for. And sometimes it sounds stupid. I know it sounds like, oh, what little magic are you working on? But the power of actually closing your mind, having a little moment for yourself, whether it's talking to God or just talking to nature or whatever, you'll be surprised a lot of the most inspirational and crazy stuff will happen in your life. Because I can give you a little story of mine. I'm from Costa Rica. What am I doing in Europe working under European football? Everyone would tell me, Roberto, you're a swimmer. You went to the U.S., which still people didn't believe I was going to be a college swimmer. And they were like, and now you want to change the whole shit and go to Europe? I'm like, I mean, ever since I was a kid, I kind of want to do that. And I see myself doing it today. And I'm like, I remember when I would sit down in the U.S. and ask the same question, should I stay in California or go to Europe? And here I am. This was the answer. And it's huge. It's a big one. And the same thing when we're dealing with issues in our body. It's a big one for healing. It's learning to relax, learning to have a moment with yourself. And I like the response you gave. I think it was powerful. And I hope everybody who listens to it understands it, because as crazy as it sounds, just give it a go and you'll see how things connect. Now, the next one, again, just like sleep, you should know about this. You know, it's one of those things everyone knows. But we talk about natural light, how important it is. But then we look at how people live, how we're stuck always inside a house, how we don't really go out there, connect with nature. And this is one that I also want to hear from you because, again, as common as it is, you don't see people really doing it.
No, and I always ask people who will kind of give me resistance on this, and I'm like, have you ever been outside in like on a trail or in a park or by the ocean or by a lake or a creek or on a desert hill or a prairie and felt and just not felt good? Like, have you ever just taken a walk outside in nature and come back and not been like, oh, that sucked? Like, never, ever, ever will you say that. You just can't. Even if you're having the most trying time, it just doesn't. I've taken walks and had arguments or broke up, had, breakups during walks, but it was still a pretty powerful walk. Like, you're still just looking around, but they've got this thing now. One, we're on the opposite side of the window where we have ways to rig out and hack our lives to have us stay inside even more. And so I have people who are like, oh, I got a stand up desk. I have this infrared light. I have this biomat pad that I stand on. So basically you just like created this fake scenario where you get to stay in front of a screen even more to justify your job that pulls you away from being even more natural, but you're some sort of a healer and a health monger I'm sorry, that like we can't rig out, you can't trick out nature. At some point she's going to settle the score. I said this in a podcast. Like you can try to, in the short term, try to trick it, but she doesn't like losing, and she'll always settle it at some point. And so we're supposed to be outside for a good portion of our day. Like, it's just the way we're designed. The body responds now. Science is following it. There's something called forest bathing, where you go into a forest. They're starting to write prescriptions for it now. Certain medical now, not even naturopaths, like medical. They can't deny the science. They will write prescriptions saying, go outside. Like, it is, if the medical community is saying it, and they aren't schooled in it, they aren't taught this in school. They're taught to prescribe. They're taught to look at symptoms as being something wrong with you. They're taught to label and identify per the insurance code. Now they're writing it and they are speaking it and they are going out themselves. So I think that if anybody who is converted into promoting going outside as a medical doctor, oh my gosh, then that's some potent thing for them to give up and sell out in their manner, because it's a very tough thing for people to realize, but yet so powerful and so simple and so free as far as we know. In most areas of the world, like just going outside it could be on your balcony. I know we're being confined and quarantined and everything else. And that's another sad part to this, attack on our health and our freedoms, but balconies, rooftops, drive with the windows down, any kind of connection that you can with outside is amplifying and priming that force within you to be released, because we're all connected to everything out. Everything out is connected to in. It's just this big web that we've got. And when you go into a forest or you go to a park or you go by a lakeside or a river, you start to do the work, you'll start to realize how more at home you feel being out than you do in. And life is literally lived, and our health will be found outside versus on the other side of the window.
True. I mean, this is, as you said, it's not very common to see people really take this and realize how important it is. Walking, connecting with nature is big. I don't care what you're going through, whether it's medical, whether it's emotional, whatever. You should go out, admire what's out there, connect with it. It's going to do better to you. My experience is the same way. One of the things also my coaches used to say is get out there, go to the beach. You like the beach? Go to the beach. Where are you at home? You can go. I mean, you're in pain, I get you, but it's going to do better. You're going to feel better. And, get some sunlight. It's going to be good for you. Because I used to be one of those guys when I was sick, and I would just stay home. Luck up.
Yeah.
I'm bad. I'm screwed. Can't do shit. And then I remember one of my friends came into my room and was like, "We're going out." You're not staying in here. We're gonna get
Right.
out. We're gonna get some sunlight. We're gonna go. Yeah, no, we're gonna go to the park over here and chill. And then it's one of those things that, as dumb again as it sounds, it's big. And I don't understand why we live in a world where people don't realize that we're part of nature. And I'm talking about the situation today. I've had people call me an idiot, call me that I need to just shut
Yeah.
up, to stay in my lane, just like you, that I'm crazy.
Yeah.
You don't know anything. I'm like, look, yeah, I'm not an epidemiologist. I know. But one thing I do understand is that we're part of nature. And again, like you said, nature's going to settle the score. You can take all the pills you want. You can take all the vaccines you want. If you don't fix your shit and start understanding that we're part of this nature thing, whatever you want to call it, then you're going to still have trouble. It's like, I don't understand people who are completely afraid of the situation. And then you see how they eat. They don't take care of themselves. I go out here. I'm living in one of the countries where more cigarettes are smoked.
Yeah.
Yet again, this is the virus that affects your cardiorespiratory system.
Lungs. Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow. So the problem is the virus. It's not that damn cancer stick that you're sticking down your throat.
Right.
And I don't understand it. And then when you talk about this stuff, how about think about something bigger than yourself, purpose, connection, sleep, etc. They look at you like you're some crazy guru who's giving them an advice. I'm like, I don't know, just give it a try. It's cheaper too. This is why a reason why this is podcast is called The Cheapest Medicine, because it was way cheaper to actually take a more natural aspect than actually, taking pills. I don't know how many MRIs I did. I don't know how many things I drank to be able to see my stomach and all the stuff that I was having.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. And then when I realized how you can actually heal and face things in the later run, I don't understand why people can't see it yet. It's like they're so bought into this whole idea that the body is weak, and it gets me fired up when I start hearing people in this way. And then this goes to the last one, and I want to connect the two because I think they go hand in hand.
Sure.
Nourishment and movement. Those are big.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about nutrition. We can talk about what you drink, what you consume, and then obviously you got to move. The sedentary lifestyle is one of the biggest reasons why people die around the world or are getting all messed up. Let's be real. I see a lot of people out here that are like, oh, I have, diabetes, or I have this heart problem, or I have this problem with my knee, or I've been having nerve problems. And then one of the biggest things I ask them, what are you doing during your day? And they work, they do this. I'm like, how about moving, exercise, you want to call it? Oh yeah, I don't have time for that. I'm like, okay, so you're going to sit all your day in your chair. You're going to watch a screen. Okay, you got a job. Everybody has one. And then you think that a pill is going to fix your shit. I don't get it, man. And this is something that I know you probably think the same way. And I think it will be interesting to hear what you got to say.
Yeah, I mean, we're designed to move. I get so much. My greatest tutor in life, or the infant version of myself, or no, we don't remember. But if you watch how a baby develops, the second they're born, they can hang their body weight from their hands. We have the ability to hang our body weight, and we start moving. We're constantly moving. We're either moving, eating, or sleeping. And you can't stop a baby moving. A Serbian neuroscientist said a 6-year-old is supposed to get 6 miles of movement a day. If that's a 6-year-old, what do you think we're supposed to get? And it's not running or jogging. It's movement miles. You know what I mean? Like they're crawling or they're skipping or they're doing whatever they're doing. So the human being is motion. On the deepest cellular level, there's motion, digestion, motion, endocrine glands releasing motion. Everything is motion based. That even when we look idle or we're sitting still, there's still movement going on. The brain gets fed through movement. Movement of the spine is one of the biggest feeders to the brain. So it's good you put nourishment and training together, because it's also the first two that everyone goes to. They bypass the first 6. Everybody is on some diet. Everybody has a trainer, has some plan. And it's just like, you know what? Yeah, they're all together. But if those two were the most important, we wouldn't have the issues we had today. And it's just, we've got so much further from those top down, but again, they're all linked together. But I honestly leave them till the very end, where I almost don't even mention them. In my office, everyone's like, I noticed you didn't talk about nutrition. Nah, we're just connecting you to source and trying to get you to breathe again, trying to get you to sleep differently, and then get you to move. And then all of a sudden you're going to understand that your cravings are going to change. But if I suggest certain things, then you're doing it because I suggested it. I want you to figure out intuitively what you're supposed to eat, because there is no diet. There is no set plan that works. It's changes day to day. It has to be based on when you're hungry, and when you're full, you stop. Certain foods are going to be agreeable. Certain foods are not. But the only person to know that is you. And then knowing your source, where do you get them from? And you'll know. And everyone's like, well, wait a second. Because I say this, a happy donut is healthier than sad salad. And people are like, what? That's no way. I just eat donuts all the time. I'm like, you wouldn't be happy though. Like, you really truly wouldn't feel good. And a lot of people are like, feel shame with good foods and bad foods and everything else. Like, no way. And that's why I post, when I eat a pizza, I hammer a pizza and feel fantastic about it. Or I eat donuts on the beach, and everyone's like, donuts? You? Yeah. That's why I'm showing you guys. It's because I'm not hiding in a closet as a health practitioner eating a donut. If our bodies can't handle a donut, breaking bread with somebody and enjoying this life, which is homemade donuts, what a fantastic thing. It's food. It's nourishment. You're connecting to ingredients and to source, and you may be sharing it with somebody. But to have those things, when you start moving well, you start connecting, you start having a reason. There's people that are either supporting you or antagonizing you to be better. Your sleep's dialed in. You're getting outside. All of a sudden, the cravings are a little different. Everything starts to get dialed in. And don't deny cravings. I never deny cravings. Somebody's like, well, they came in and were just like, I'm sorry to say this, but I love chocolate cake at night. Okay, that's an awesome thing. Really? You're not going to tell me to stop? Absolutely not. Your body wants it. Why does it want it? Now, let's change something. Where are you getting your chocolate cake from? Oh, Costco. Okay, just look on the back and see how many ingredients it is. It's like 39 ingredients or something. Okay. So now chocolate cake you're going to make from scratch. Here's a recipe. I don't know. I just DuckDuckGo'd it and found a recipe. Simple, 5 ingredients: flour, baking soda, egg, raw honey, raw cacao, and maybe that's it, right? Like that's it. Maybe an avocado for the icing or something like that, right? And so somebody's just like, wait, I can have that, but the sugar. It's like, okay, but the sugar source was raw honey. You're going to be okay. And what you're going to notice is when you make that and you indulge and you enjoy it, you'll eat less because the body's actually getting things that will shut off hunger, like it'll shut it off. You also won't feel guilty. You connected with it. You emotionally connected with your food because you made it. You made it from scratch. You went and got the ingredients and you made your food, and your energy surrounding the food is different. You'll eat less. You've connected to it. And then maybe your cravings change. Maybe you don't want chocolate cake anymore. Maybe you want it in the day. But also, if you refabricate those ingredients into a different proportion, couldn't that just be toast, scrambled eggs on buttered toast with cacao and honey and an avocado on the side? And nobody would say shit to that. Mm-hmm. But you put it in different amounts and you make a cake. And it's like, wait a second, that's unhealthy. Why? How is that? That doesn't, you guys pointing the fingers as this is right, this is wrong, that's good, that's bad, has the emotional construct being very, very torn and twisted with nourishment. And it is nourishment. And I practice fasting regularly, about 4 times a year on purpose, so that I prove to myself I'm not a slave to food. It's me who is the driver. Because this whole, like, I'm starving, I can't go another minute without my blood sugar. It's like, really? You would not survive, like, in the wild for a day if you couldn't go a day without eating. Like, you would just hang it up. So I'll go 3 days dry or 3 days wet, like just water, 3 days to stare in the face of hunger and deny food. That's like some of the biggest ultimate gains in performance and health and healing. Plus you have cell regeneration, all the other things that come with fasting. But the biggest thing is you can sit and stare hunger and you realize, am I hungry right now? Or am I made to think I'm hungry right now? Because now on the side of the streets are all these advertisements making you think food. think food. Just like every commercial on television is drugs, 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 and labels, labels, labels. And so it's just that programming that goes in. But those two go hand in hand. That when you start to do all the eight together, your cravings will change. Don't deny them. Don't change them. I've had non-meat eaters start to crave meat. Go with it. It's okay. Just know your source. One of my buddies broke his arm and he hated salad. And then all of a sudden he started craving salad when he had a broken bone. Well, vitamin K is in lettuce. And it was like his body craved lettuce at a time when it knew what it needed. And there's stories, this is pretty cool. There's stories where guys were shipwrecked, and they were in a raft floating in the ocean. And, this dude, he had canopy, so he had cover. He had rainwater. He had fresh water. He had access to fish. He learned how to fish. Dude, the guy was set. He literally had like a really great scenario going. He was just lost. But what he noticed was he was only eating the fish meat. Well, there's no fat, there's no nutrients, there's no minerals, there's no vitamins. It's just protein. He started to get very sick and he didn't realize what was going on because he was just eating fish meat. Well, then he started to notice that his body, his brain, he looked at the guts and the eyes and the skin of the fish and he just devoured it. And he's like, I have no idea what I was doing. I was controlled by something else, that power inside you, right? Well, what his body knew was there was more sustainable nutrients in those things he was discarding than just the fish meat itself. And the body went to that extreme state. It went and figured out what it needed to do to survive. Pretty amazing. Now that's a very extreme example, but what if we could get our lives geared up, not to be shipwrecked, but to be in like a mindset of single focus, like where our focus is so hard, it's so pure, we're so connected that the body just goes, yes, you want that. No, you don't want that. Yes, you want to hang out with her. No, you don't want to hang out with her. Yes, you want to do this for a job. No, you don't want to do this. Yes, go to sleep at this time. Deny that. Take in that. Do this. Boom. All self-led, self-driven. So we are the guru to connect this whole thing. And then one more thing with movement. It literally is, even because I get attacked by people who are like, what if you're in a wheelchair? And it's like, why are you trying to find loopholes in this? You know, they're just trying to justify their life, right? It's like, you're really going to come at me with what if you're in a wheelchair? Okay. Tell that wheelchair person, ask them what they do every day. Oh, I move around. I go outside. I wheel myself outside. They'll sit. It was crazy in Chicago. I was along the lakeside, and there was a woman in a wheelchair, and her legs were atrophied so badly. So I don't know what the neurological damage was or what exactly she was going through, but she was in a wheelchair, confined to a wheelchair, and there were people on a Segway tour going right in front of her. And I was looking, and I'm like, God, that if that's not irony, or I don't even know what that is. She has no choice to be in that wheelchair at this moment. These people are choosing to be in wheels on a sidewalk where she'd give anything to use the legs that they have, but they're choosing a Segway tour. Do you know what Segways are?
Yeah,
this is motorized.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just like, oh my God, this is just where we are now. That woman would give anything to have their freedom that they have, and they have no idea what they're lacking. And then another thing. So people will reach out to me, hey, I had a hysterectomy. What can I do while I'm in the bed? Or I had my appendix out, or my breast reduced. I had my implants taken out because they're very unhealthy. Some really, really interesting things, right? Okay, so you're in a hospital bed. Can you move your hands and feet? Yeah. Can you move your eyes and your face? Yeah. Can you breathe? Beautiful. Done. There's your movement. There's your training right there. And I'm not the only one, and you're not the only crazy to promote this. A very famous name, a gentleman by the name of Joseph Pilates, right? So Joe Pilates, everyone's like, oh, Pilates, yeah, my mom does that, or my really long aunt does that, or my really fit model does that. Well, here's this truth behind Joe Pilates. He was a savage. He was an absolute beast. And the way he talked about health, he was anti-vaccine. He was anti-deranged people having kids because he didn't want to perpetuate people having more. He called them deranged, which was a very harsh word at the time, but how he described it, it was just those people that just weren't really connected, and they weren't really healthy markers, by choice, and they were reproducing. And he's like, this is going to be a problem. I mean, he had no problem talking about this. So it's pretty crazy. But he came up with a system of pulleys and springs and ropes to attach to hospital beds so that you could train when you were at the hospital and you could move and have resistance when you're at the hospital. It was a phenomenal breakthrough. Now we've turned it into, somebody created the reformer, and now all those classes where they're laying on the ground doing all that stuff, that was originally designed for people in hospital beds. Now we do it as the Hollywood way of getting trained in some capacity. It's like, nah, you're training like a sick person in a hospital bed, but we'll leave that for another conversation. So again, one of the greatest teachers of movement of all time, Joseph Pilates, created a movement scenario when you are normally told, especially in the American hospital system, I don't know what's like over there, but my God,
Same thing.
Like least healthy building on the planet is where health should be promoted the most. So yeah, that's an interesting story.
Well, that was a lot in the response and a lot to summarize it. I'll have to do it, but I think it's self-explanatory what you say, the importance of, eating well, just, being connected with nature, and understanding that what you eat, what you put in your body, you shouldn't hate it. You shouldn't call it it's good or bad. You should go for it. That's something that I also learned that throughout my career and with even my situation living. When I was super sick, I was the guy who was like, oh, I'm not going to eat that because I'm going to get fat, because I was into that aspect of going from being a super athlete to shit, I can't walk. Literally, that was me. And I would be, no, I don't want to eat that. No, I don't want to eat that. And I wasn't understanding that that was also a negative effect to my body. So I began to obviously, start eating everything in proportion. Obviously, don't overeat or don't do something. But then I started realizing that my body would ask me what I would need. I wouldn't just go, oh, I'm going to go eat this thing just because. No, I would realize what was good for me. And I started to have a good connection with food. And it's one of those things that still today, with how it's being promoted by, everything on the outside of the billboards or television or all the shit that goes on with the food. And even in professional athletes, I'll see it.
Oh, yeah.
You see people who have so much misinformation. And then, especially when I've dealt with women's soccer, girls who don't eat before training, or they don't want to, they're just eating, like depriving themselves of carbohydrates. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, we're coming out here for 2-hour training and you didn't eat shit. No wonder you're about to pass out. And it was one of those things that I would have to teach them, like, no, if you want to eat a burger and fries on a Sunday, eat the burger and fries. You're going to be fine.
Oh, yeah.
Don't worry about it. Enjoy life. Like, everything in life has obviously it's balance, if you want to call it. But depriving things like that is no. And then movement, again. I think that Joseph Pilates' story explains it pretty well. Movement is huge. If you're sick, it doesn't mean you have to stop, drop, and roll and do nothing. And it's one of the things I'm super against when I see people, whether it's injuries or whether they have a medical issue. I mean, I can tell you one of the best stories I have was my grandfather, who passed away. Was it 10 years ago? Shit. That long ago. So he died of cancer. And one of the things I do remember is when he was still recovering, he was fragile. He wasn't as strong. He just came out from this treatment. He had lost a lot of weight. And I remember one day, everybody at the dinner table was like, oh, you got to take care of grandpa. You got to take care of grandpa. Don't do anything with him. All of a sudden, grandpa went missing. Everybody was freaking out. And then when my dad went to look for it, my grandpa was taking a walk down the city in the capital of Costa Rica, where he used to walk all the time. And he was like, oh, I just needed to walk, man. I need to move. Nice. And this is a sick person who just who was recovering from cancer, who actually at the end took him. But it's one of those things where I'm like, and then people are promoting that you should just stay home and be this little fragile bitch and do nothing. It was one of the same things that people would tell me with chronic pain. Oh, Berto, you can't walk. Don't do those. It's going to hurt you. Oh, Berto, this is going to hurt. Well, I'm going to be telling you something for everybody who's listening. Recovery is painful. It's going to hurt sometimes. It's not this beautiful, flowery bullshit that's out there. None of these essentials that Dr. Tommy John is talking about are easy. It's like anything in life. To learn, to be able to master this, if you want to put words into it, there's going to be some pain. There's going to be some stress to it. I mean, best example I put people is, look, I've had tendinopathies wherever you can imagine. And when you're dealing with tendinopathies, I'm sorry, but there's going to be times where it's going to hurt. It's not going to be so comfortable, but you got to put the tendon through stress so it can adapt to that stress later on. And you get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger through time. And that's how the same thing I view with I've been sick before for my stomach. I've been there, guys. I've been into situations where I don't know what the hell's happening with me. And I had to learn how to train my gut as well to be able to eat things. And yes, the first time I ate something, I shit all over the place. I wasn't having a good time.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And then the second one, it wasn't so bad. And then the third one. And now today I eat stuff that was quote unquote bad for me.
Right.
And it's good. My body can take it because your body is adaptable. And that's the thing that I kind of want to end today's podcast with is this 8 essentials aren't easy. I think you're not saying that they're easy at all. I think it's tough, as you mentioned. It's one of the things you mentioned in today's podcast, but they're doable. You have to get on with them. If you don't want to believe us, great. I'm not going to force anything. It's something that you mentioned in one of your Instagram posts that you should have the option if you believe more into,
yes,
or do pharmaceuticals or a vaccine. Go ahead. It's your choice. And for sure, if you feel more secure, I'll support you on that. Go for it. But if you ever want to look into, really the whole holistic idea of how things get better, start looking into these 8 essentials. And with that, I want to thank you for, giving a moment of your time to speak of today about something that I know is controversial. I know it's going to piss people off. I know I'm going to get some people question me, but the more I'm living and seeing myself and other people heal and understanding that, no, I'm not against medicine. I use medicine sometimes, guys. I do. There's moments I do. There's moments that I say, you know what, I'm in so much pain. I'm going to take this pill because I need to reduce this. I'm just having a bad time. But I don't depend on it. I don't bank on it. I used to be that person, and I was not healing at all. So thank you, Dr. Tommy John, for your time.
Dude, I appreciate this, man. This is the right kind of infection we got to get out there.
Yeah, it's got to change, and I know it's tough because of how the world is being run, made, taught. I mean, I've been to universities and the way things are being taught. I mean, beforehand, I was even working at the team. I remember being at a meeting with the team I was working here in Spain, and a doctor came in and spoke to us for an hour.
Oh yeah,
from promoting a surgery.
Oh yeah.
And I got up. I'm like, you're telling me I just sat in this shitty room for an hour to hear about somebody promote a surgery? Come on, man. We're professionals in sports and athletes. You always know this is the last resort.
I know.
Wow. So yeah. Thank you so much, and I hope we can keep in touch. Keep doing what you're doing, and for the people out there, follow Dr. Tommy John on your social media, which you can give us the best places to follow you.
Yeah, so go to my website, drtommyjohn.com, and that's where you'll be able to find all my social media outlets: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. It's Dr. Tommy John, Dr. Tommy John, and all those. And then if you have any questions or any concerns, or anybody wants to reach out, DM me. I might not get back right away, but as you know, I've gotten back to you, and I think that's one of the things. It's that connection component, and I feel like that's one of the things, because I'm not a guru, I'm not a healer, I'm not anything. I'm a human being right alongside everybody else. So try to be as authentic and open as I can be, as in a respectable, as long as people are respectable too. But if any questions or concerns, definitely reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And
got it, brother.
Everybody listening, this was the end of this episode. Until the next one,